My name is Lauren Walcott, and I'm the Infrastructure Asset Management Coordinator for the City of Westminster, Colorado. Today I'm going to be discussing how we digitized our last remaining paper workflow and created processes in Cityworks which were enhanced by integrations. Today's presentation is going to start with some background information on the City of Westminster and our operations, followed by our "we've always done it this way" paradigm shift, and then I'll dive into our change management process with the staff, as well as our technical development process for creating new workflows and integrations in Cityworks, wrapping up with our future enhancements. The City of Westminster is located northwest of Denver, between Denver and Boulder along US 36, and has a population of 112,000 residents, approximately. The city has actively used GIS for nearly 20 years and has an asset management system for over 10 years. We began utilizing Cityworks in 2017 and went live in July 2019. As a utility, we maintain over $4 billion worth of assets, which is why it's critical that we have an asset management system and processes in place. The final paper-based workflow that was a prime candidate to be digitized and brought into Cityworks was our snow removal operations. The City of Westminster maintains 1,135 lane miles. During the winter months, which in Colorado is October through May, we divide these lane miles into 18 snow routes. We utilize over 44 staff members, which includes 36 drivers, 6 snow supervisors, and 2 loader operators, plus various administrative staff. Our stats for this last snow season, which were on par for a typical season, included 17 snow events, resulting in 78 inches of snow. Our plows drove approximately 62,000 miles, and workers worked nearly 8,000 hours, all resulting in $1.3 million of equipment, labor, and material costs. Snow removal at Westminster is an institution in and of itself. Behind the scenes, there are a lot of logistics in place, from assigning drivers to routes, setting the weekly snow truck assignment sheets, supervisors discussing the response to incoming weather, and the actual declaration of a snow event that will call in drivers and disrupt our routine operations for at least 24 hours. A workflow like this is hard to reimagine because of all of the moving pieces, but we did it. The existing snow removal process is as follows. Each week, the snow supervisor creates the truck assignment sheet. You can see one on the screen. This is sent out to our drivers. This sheet indicates who is in each route and which vehicle, and most importantly, which crew is the primary on-call crew. This rotates weekly between our 2 crews. If there is a snow event, the snow supervisor will contact the primary on-call crew to report in for snow removal. Our policy allows for 45 minutes between the notification and when staff need to arrive. At the end of the shift, each driver completes a paper form to document the hours they worked, mileage driven, and materials used. You can see one of these lovely handwritten sheets on the screen. This information is provided to them via their Force America controller in their truck and the precise MRM GPS device. If applicable, a second crew will report to relieve the first crew, and they will cycle on 12-hour shifts until the end of the storm. Once the storm has been completed, the storm supervisor collects all of the snow sheets completed by the drivers. Within a few weeks of the storm, the supervisor will create work orders and enter the data from the sheet. After understanding and being a part of this workflow for a year, I saw all kinds of ways that it could be streamlined and improved, but overhauling a workflow that's been in place longer than I've been alive is not something that's done overnight. My 2 mantras for anything related to change management are to keep it simple and baby steps. Incremental improvements over time are more manageable for users and system administrators. It's also crucial for you to engage with and partner with your stakeholders, so you have a clear understanding of their needs and that they have input. While we are implementing Cityworks, we coordinated with the snow supervisor to essentially transition his workflow from the existing asset management system to Cityworks. This would allow him to learn the program and begin to see where he can make improvements. Tackling this together as a team rather than me forcing ideas is another successful change management technique. We also created a phase approach for our baby steps. Phase 1 was to create a simple parent-child workflow in Cityworks that mirrored the old work order system. This would allow our snow supervisor to get a better grasp of the capabilities of Cityworks while not having to completely relearn a workflow. Phase 2 was to audit the child work orders to determine what fields were still needed and any enhancements that the SnowSupervisor may have thought of. Phase 3 was to integrate the child work orders with our precise system to remove most of the manual data entry. And Phase 4 is to update our reporting. Phase 1 began in fall of 2019. We created a basic parent-child workflow in Cityworks. The snow event work order was the parent and housed the overall storm data, such as weather conditions, the time the page was sent to drivers, and the snowfall footage. From that parent work order, a series of child work orders were created, one per route for each crew. If multiple shifts were needed, another set of child work orders were created. We used the snow route assets to make the creation step straightforward for the SnowSupervisor. Data from the snow sheets collected from the drivers was populated into custom fields. After the first couple of snowstorms, the SnowSupervisor identified 18 fields that could be dropped from the child work orders. Some of these fields were no longer used in reporting and hadn't been for a number of years, but the sheets were never updated. And some things, such as the route area, were already being added to the work order via the asset, so it was duplicated. This process streamlined our data entry, and the SnowSupervisor was beginning to have ownership of the workflow. Phase 3 began in spring/summer 2020 to present. The SnowSupervisor was beginning to recognize that almost all of the remaining custom fields on the child work order was also the data that is collected by Precise, and we agreed that we should explore if it would be possible to pull that data into Cityworks. COVID-19 and social distancing requirements greatly expedited this process, since we wanted to remove contact between staff members, and handing paper sheets back and forth and having everybody congregate and drop off paper forms was not advantageous for that. I reached out to Precise, who provided extensive API documentation to us. We also learned that our API was included with the licensing that we were already purchasing. I provided this documentation to GIS Inc., who we've partnered with to help support and enhance our Cityworks system. GIS Inc. is also who worked with us to implement Cityworks, and that implementation included several other integrations, such as JDE, SCADA, Fleet Faster, and Colorado 811. Since both systems had very robust APIs, the development team at GIS Inc. was able to leverage those with minimal involvement from the vendors. We had an API integration deployed in the test environment within 8 weeks. In addition to the API integration, GIS Inc. also created a web page for our SnowSupervisor to set the roster for the truck assignments. This ultimately is what would replace the need for assets to be attached in Cityworks, and we could communicate the Precise asset IDs to the Precise system and be able to aggregate information using that. From the user perspective, the integration consisted of the roster webpage and a handful of custom GUI buttons within Cityworks. To start the process with the integration in place, the SnowSupervisor creates a snow event work order and then scrolls to the custom snow event buttons and selects the crew that is responding first. Roster from the roster webpage then appears, and any final adjustments can be made, such as someone calling in sick or a truck being down and unavailable within our fleet department. If additional shift changes are needed, the SnowSupervisor clicks the crew button to generate the next set of child work orders. This process would continue until the storm was over. When the storm is complete, the SnowSupervisor clicks Finish Snow Event and the data is aggregated. This integration automated 80% of our snow removal operation data entry. The SnowSupervisor still manually creates the snow event work order and performs a QA/QC of the data populated from Precise. We did learn some lessons once this was deployed in production. We quickly learned that the size of the storm matters. The first storm we utilized the integration in production was actually the 4th largest in Colorado history, and the integration bugged out when trying to move multiple gigabytes of data between the two systems. After that storm, we allocated additional resources in order to handle larger snow events. Also learned that the integration in general is resource heavy. We are working with our IT department to create dedicated resources for the integration rather than having it share with Cityworks. We noticed that the Cityworks environment is slower than usual when the integration is running, but currently that is not an issue as most of our drivers are in the plow trucks during these times and not performing their normal job functions in Cityworks. Phase 4 is our next phase that we are looking forward to and is a part of our future enhancements. This is going to primarily revolve around reporting. Currently, our reporting is basic cumulative counts, hours worked, costing, miles driven, ELM breakdown between storms. In the future, we would like to start using the data that we're collecting to track route completeness and be able to analyze the cost of snow removal down to the road segment. Additional information may help us tailor our responses in the future, which could lead to cost savings. That wraps up our journey to the last frontier and how we eliminated our last paper-based workflow. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me. My email and Twitter handle are on the final slide. Thank you.